Hi, I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World, and in this video I'm going to show you how to applique your bear's face onto your quilt block. There are a lot of different ways to applique. Probably the fastest way is to use a fusible adhesive, and that works fine for wall hangings and things, but I really don't like it for quilts that you're going to use because even if you use the lightest weight adhesive, there's still a stiffness to the final applique that I really don't like in stuff that I'm going to snuggle with. At the other end of the spectrum, there's needle turn applique, which is gorgeous. It gives beautiful results. It has a really nice, soft, rolled edge to it, but it's a hand technique and it takes a lot of time. So what I'm going to show you today is a machine technique that has the speed of the fusible applique, but the softness and the nice look of a needle turn applique. We're going to transfer this pattern onto freezer paper, which is a really tremendous product for quilters and needle artists in general. It's shiny plastic on one side and it's paper on the other side. And what we wanted to do with this one is transfer the exact outline so that the plasticky side is up. So the way I did this is I put this again face down in the window so that the light would shine through my pattern, and then traced on the paper side of this so that when you look at it, everything right ways up, with your pattern the right way up, the plastic side is facing up. So I traced the face and also both ears. Now I'm going to show you how we're going to do that, what we're going to do with that. So we've got the bear's face, he's all finished embroidering, and I took, if you remember, we marked both sides of the face, just little pencil markings down here. I just marked those with a pin so that when we flip it over, which is the next step, you can see where those are. So now we're going to take that face pattern, we're putting it plastic side down, shiny side down, and I'm going to line it up between those pins so that the edges of the face are at those pins, and the bottom edge of the paper is lined up with the bottom edge of the fabric. And then I just take it with a dry iron, and this is where the stuff is just magical. It's now stuck to the paper, or to the fabric. I'm going to take these pins out, and now I'm going to cut out around the edge, and I'm just going to rough cut. It doesn't matter. Don't get too close to it. That'll make this next step difficult. I usually give it a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch though, especially on nice big pieces. I designed this pattern especially for beginning applique, and one of the things that makes it easy for beginners is that all the pieces are nice and big, and also that all of the curves are convex curves. There are no concave curves in this entire project. So we're going to set this one aside for right now. We're going to do the same thing with both ear pieces. So I'm going to lay them slick side down, and I'm going to leave plenty of space between them because when I cut these out, just like the face, I want to leave some space around the edges of them. So I'm going to give myself a nice seam allowance there. That was probably a little bigger than I needed it to be. I'm going to trim that back down just a little bit. Now cut out this one. I'm also going to just trim away a little bit of extra off of the bottom of both of these. Okay, get this out of the way. Now we're going to go back to the big face piece. And what we're going to do is get in here with the iron, and we're going to press this down, and the freezer paper is really nice because we're pressing it right over the edge of the paper. And I just work my iron back towards it, trying to stay out of the way of the video camera, but still hold everything down here. Should turn my steam back on. You'll get a crisper fold if you do this with steam, but you have to be careful of steam shooting out the sides of the iron. So you can see I'm just folding it over till it's nice and wrapped around the edge of that freezer paper and just pressing it in place. I'm going to go once more just all the way around that edge. Make sure I've got that all pressed down. And now you can see when I flip it over, I've got a nice, clean, folded edge all the way around. So I'm going to set that aside and let it cool for a second. I'm going to do the same thing with both of these ears. Just try and keep your fingers away from the iron. If you were working with smaller pieces, if you were using this technique on another project, you can use something like an awl to hold your pieces in there, but whenever possible, I like to use my hands. They're the best tool. I'm just going to turn this so I can still reach it. So, let's get one more hit. Now I'm going to let, while those ears cool, here's the magic of freezer paper again. Just peels right out and it doesn't leave any residue behind. So now I've got a prepared applique piece. I'm going to do the same thing with both ears, because I don't want that paper in there. All right, now we're going to go and pin these to the block and I'll show you how to stitch them down. Okay, so I'm going to just center this bear face in the block. I'm not going to measure or anything, it just needs to be roughly centered in there. We're not making complicated stars or anything like that where anything needs to match up from one block to another. We just want it pretty much in the middle. And I'm just going to pin couple of times around. I'm going to go back and add some more pins in a second, but first I want to put those ears in. So I've got it roughly positioned there now. I've got a round ear and a taller, skinnier ear. I usually put the rounder ear over on this side, and I'm just tucking it under the edge. And then I'm going to pin that in place, catching the ear in there. And then I'm going to put another couple of pins in the side. I'm just folding that seam allowance under. It falls under pretty naturally because we pressed it all into place. Now I'm going to put the tall ear over on this side. And again, I'm not worrying too much about if it's exactly matching the picture. As long as it's cute, that's all that matters. So if you like the way it looks, then that's going to be good. I'll just turn that under. Pin it. Sorry. And I'll probably just put a couple more pins right here where it's starting and stopping. If you don't want to use pins with this, sometimes I use masking tape. The pins sometimes will kind of warp the fabric underneath it, and especially if it was a smaller, much more detailed image, I might use masking tape instead, but pins will work fine for this one. And then we're going to take it over to the sewing machine. So I'm set up here at the sewing machine. I have a thread color in here that's matching the color of my bear. Now we're going to use a blind hem stitch for this one. On my machine, that's this number 5 here, and the image is going to be standard on everybody's machine. It'll be pointed stitches with some straight stitches in between them. So that's the stitch that I want to use, and I'm going to make it as narrow and as short as possible. So I adjusted those 2 dimensions on my machine. I want this to be not a very noticeable stitch. And what we're going to do is the straight stitches are going to be running into the pink fabric here along the background of the fabric, and those little V's are just going to come in every few stitches into the purple and hold that in place. And it's going to have an effect, very similar to a needle turn applique. So my straight stitches are going into the pink, and the little V's are coming in and just catching the edge of that purple. I'm just making sure everything is smooth. I'm coming up on the ear, so I want to make sure everything is smoothed down and in place. These are all nice, gentle curves you're going to be sewing, so it's not very tricky sewing. But if you get to where you're going a little tight, where you need to turn a little bit tighter, put your needle down, lift up your presser foot, and just turn it manually a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out there so that you guys can see it. So you see that what you're really, the only thing that you're seeing on this purple is where it is catching into the purple. I went onto the fabric there a little bit, but you can see down here that most of those stitches are going right into the pink there. This keeps the softer edge that the needle turn applique has, and but still it's a pretty fast technique. I'll be able to finish this in no time. So that's it. It's a really easy and really nice looking machine applique technique. You put the freezer paper on, cut your freezer paper exactly to the shape that you want your finished piece to be. Fuse that to the back, cut it out with a little bit extra all the way around. Fold that over and press it so you've got a nice clean edge. Take out the freezer paper and then just stitch it down using a blind hem stitch so that the straight lines are going in your background block and the little V stitches that come in zig in and catch your bear face as they stitch around. It's really, really easy and really, really fast. I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World. I'll see you next time.